This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by NHLibertySA.com.
The next call I'm going to make is to Gary Stenhouse, who is the town administrator for Derry, New Hampshire. Last week there was an act of civil disobedience on the part of a New Hampshire resident in Derry. Not a free state or anything, just an average guy who wants to run a sausage stand, has a permit from the authorities to do that, and he couldn't get to his spot that he had a permit to be in, so he decided, I think, to go out to the town dump and sell sausage there. Well, they wouldn't let him, so he just kept going back until they arrested him, an act of civil disobedience. I think actually he may have been right outside the town dump, but he was considered to be, said to be on town property. Just ringing now. Actually trying to get through to Gary Stenhouse. Thanks. Yeah, I was wondering if I could speak to Gary Stenhouse. It's Dave Ridley from RidleyReport.com. It's in regard to the arrest of the sausage vendor. You may. This is the message, just 2 sentences, maybe one. I object to your arrest of Mr. Solaris. I don't record both ends of the conversation because that's against the law in New Hampshire. You have to have two-party consent in order to record someone else, or at least you have to have their knowledge. It looks like he's ended his meeting and he's now available to talk, so I'll see if I can get his permission to record. Hey, Mr. Stenhouse, thanks for taking my call. My name is Dave Ridley. I run a little libertarian video blog called RidleyReport.com. I'm wondering if I can interview you about the arrest of Mr. Solaris. Okay, that's fair. Now, I'd like to know if I could have your permission to audio record the interview for my report. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to get up. Okay, that's fine. That's plenty. First of all, Mr. Stenhouse, why is it that, I mean, is this really the right way for the town to be spending its resources going after sausage vendors, and why?
The town asked Mr. Solari and his attorney for him not to come down there and use the landfill until such time we could have an ordinance in place to govern that type of behavior, both as a protection to him and the citizens.
Well, now, are you, if he goes back and does it again, are you going to have him arrested again?
Mr. Solari has been required not to go down there until such time as we can have something in place that creates an orderly process for utilizing the landfill and any other public property.
Do you have any sense of how much it cost to have him arrested and jailed for that period of time?
I would not have any idea. I don't handle such things as that. He could have remedied the problem easily by not going down there as he was asked to do and as his attorney was asked.
Well, now, I mean, wouldn't he, by doing that, wouldn't he, though, be interrupting his own livelihood?
I'm just telling you what our position is.
I beg your pardon?
I'm telling you what our position is.
Okay.
I can't speak for Mr. Solari. I can only speak for the town of Derry. That's all I can do.
Okay. Well, Mr. Stenhouse, although, of course, we hold opposite views, I do appreciate your accessibility and readiness to talk about this.
I'm definitely available to people when I'm here. I happened to be at a meeting when you first called, I guess. I was talking to one of the council members.
Okay, great. Can't fault you for that.
We're supposed to have some sort of an ordinance, at least for the council to consider fairly quickly.
That will allow him to do something, or that will at least address the issue?
I'm sorry?
Something that will allow him to continue his livelihood?
I think what they need to do is really have an orderly process to allow for people, so we aren't singling out and saying, you can do something, you can't. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
That's the critical thing. I think we want to treat people as a class, and an individual fairly. And I think that's one of the flaws that could happen if you don't have some sort of regulation. I actually worked in a town once where some vendors got in fistfights over places down at what they thought was a choice facility until we put some regulations in that governed where you could go and how you went about doing it.
Okay, well, Mr. Stenhouse will be able to see the report probably the next day or two at RidleyReport.com, and of course I'll do my best to treat you fairly. You certainly were fair with me. Thank you, you too. So you see there's some of the saving graces of the New Hampshire political scene. They may have done something that we disagree with, but in some cases at least, politicians are relatively acceptable and bureaucrats are relatively acceptable, or accessible is the word I'm looking for. This is actually the Ridley Report's first phone-taped interview, and I'm not really very good at doing that yet. It's a bulky process, but we'll get better at it as we go, and it's always great to have the opportunity. Of course, you can see some of the town administrator's points there, where he's talking about, what if we have too many people there, that sort of thing. And of course, it's yet another chance to bring up that question. Well, why do we have so much public property? If we had less public property, we'd have less conflict, because for something to be public is for it to be in conflict by definition. Or maybe I should say if it's public property, publicly owned. If it is public land, there will be something banned, and the flames of angry conflict will certainly be fanned. This is Dave Ridley signing off from Manchester, New Hampshire for RidleyReport.com.
Are you a student who longs for liberty? Are you a student who rocks at writing? Then be gone from the Ridley Report and get your butt over to NHLibertyEssay.com. NHLibertyEssay.com is offering up to $100 for the student who writes the best essay about liberty. So head on over to NHLibertyEssay.com.